the first thing you should try in this brain starter is to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So cosecant is 1 over sine of x times the original cosine of x plus cotangent is cosine of x over sine of x. And this is all over secant, which is 1 over cosine of x, times cotangent, which again is cosine of x over sine of x. Now, we can cancel some things out here. One thing I see is that those cosines on the bottom can cancel out. And also, one nice thing to know here is that that cosine of x over sine of x is the same as the other one. So really, we can kind of rewrite this thing as 2 cosine of x over sine of x. And then, from the denominator, 1 over sine of x. Since these both have sine of x in the denominator, that means we can just rewrite this whole expression as 2 cosine of x. Over 1, of course, but that keeps it the same. What we're going to do today is verify trig identities. So for example, on the brain starter, if they said that that should equal 2 cosine of x, we would go through a bunch of work on the left-hand side of the equation and make sure it matched up with the right-hand side of the equation. Like for example, if you wanted to, you could verify this Pythagorean identity. We're going to do something slightly different though, and we're going to use the reciprocal, the quotient, and the Pythagorean identities to help get there. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to verify that cosecant squared minus 1 over cosecant squared just equals cosine squared. And in order to do this, we're going to use some identities. So if you look at the numerator on the left, which by the way, we're going to start on the left because it's the more complicated stuff, and we're just going to try to hope that it ends up making cosine squared of x in the end. So if you look at the cosecant squared minus 1, I'm looking at this Pythagorean identity on the right. And if you subtract 1 on both sides, you'll see that cosecant squared minus 1 just equals cotangent squared. So I'm going to rewrite that. It's cotangent squared over cosecant squared. Now, like we were doing before, this will be easier if we rewrite it in terms of sine and cosine. So cotangent squared is cosine squared over sine squared, all over cosecant squared, which is 1 over sine squared. Hopefully you can see now that these signs on the bottom, the sine squared and the sine squared, will cancel out, which means that on the left side of this equation we have cosine squared of x, which matches with what we needed on the right side. So right now, using the identities at the top, we verified that this is true.